Creating sub-plans is never easy as a STEM teacher. Coming into a room where things are very different from a classroom. That's right. We are talking all about how to create STEM plans for your classroom when you cannot be there. So you are very confident when you are away from the room. Also, if you're already loving our podcast, make sure to subscribe, rate, and review. This helps spread the word to other innovative teachers who would love to connect to our community. Stay tuned for a great episode full of tons of useful information. We can't wait to learn and grow with you. All right, that means we can get started, and we didn't mess up again, which is perfect for the video.
Yes, I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves because it's like a one-time shot. We don't want to do any video editing.
And I don't know why, but you going like this, it just made me laugh, and I wanted to burst out laughing, but I was like, I gotta focus a little bit to make sure I don't mess up this time. So.
You just have to cover my face with the script. That's what I do. I cover your face up so you won't make me laugh.
That's smart. I'd probably try to. I was that kid in school. I really was. So today we're talking all about sub plans, and we even talked about how being STEM teachers, it's just different. I remember the first time I made my sub plans, I feel like I made them too detailed, which I know a lot of subs would probably be like, well, you can't, but like I spent way too much time creating those plans and worrying about, well, what's going to happen when I'm not here? I need to do exactly what my students were doing the day before I left, which isn't necessarily true. And I think that's what we're going to cover today. And I think it's important and something we feel a lot of people probably are thinking about, like we were talking about before, and hopefully you find it useful, because I know if I would have heard this the first time I wrote sub plans, I probably would have saved a lot of money instead of buying a bunch of things to like help. I was like, oh, if I buy this, it would help. Whereas, some of these tricks, I can't say that, are a little bit easier and maybe a little bit cheaper than the options, maybe we did right away. So that's what we're kind of hoping for. So when I look for a sub, I'm thinking about doing activities that are quick for kids. These are meant to keep the kids busy, obviously, because I think that's what's important, and to keep them on task, but they're also learning something that they normally would learn with me, but just in a quicker fashion. So I'm talking about doing, my process that might take me 3 or 4 days, trying to fit that into one day. So can you see the problem? Can you get your materials quickly and maybe build something? And then when I come back, we can talk about those things so we can work on the reflections. So that's the way I view subs, which I know everyone's a little bit different. And a lot of times there's other ways you could incorporate, what you were doing before you left for that day. In saying that, though, I don't know. I just feel like that's the easiest way to go about subs, because it's not, more than likely, you're going to be gone for a day, maybe 2 days at the most. I know I haven't personally missed more than 2 days, but I've been pretty fortunate. Like this year was the first year since I started. So like 4.5 years now that I didn't take a sick day. So this year was the first time.
Good.
Yeah. And that's what my principal, when I told her, I was like, hey, I got a sinus infection, I would normally come. I was like, my wife said she's a nurse, she's like, with the current world, you're not going. So I missed 2 days, and I've never done that. And these are some of the things I did just because I knew they would be easy to do. I did like task cards. So I would give the kids, like, I laminate all my task cards. And so that's easy for me to do as a quick activity for kids. So when I have a sub, it's easy to give second and first graders task cards to say, hey, here's what you're going to be doing today. Here are the materials. It says it right on the card, get busy. And I even give them like a brainstorm.
It says get busy on the card.
No, it doesn't say that. I wish it did.
I thought it was like you give them like little encouraging words, like get busy, do your work.
I should write that on the other side. That'd be fun.
Flip over for an inspirational message.
Quote. But yeah, those I think are really like an effective way to do something like that. And I make tons of task cards because I like them a lot, and that's kind of like one of my favorite things to make. STEM in a bag is like the same concept. They're task cards, but you have everything like in a bag. So a lot of times I'll like stuff those during a prep, if I ever get a spare prep where no one's like talking to me about doing something. And I'll put 30 of them to the side, and I'll be like, oh, if I have a sub, my third graders are going to do that, or my second graders are going to do that, and it'll just be sitting in the corner. So I think having something like we were saying earlier, it's never a bad thing to have something like that ready, just in case you wake up and feel like death and you're like, I can't move. So just to have something like that, I think.
Well, I've had it happen where I didn't feel sick. I've had this happen 3 times, twice in STEM, where I actually lost my voice and I felt fine. And I actually taught I've done this. I've taught like half the day without a voice.
I've
And
never heard.
yes, I've had it happen 3 times. I don't know, like ask your wife if if that's good. It's probably not good. So I've taught half the day, but if I had like things on hand like that, I mean, it would have been nice, but I'm like, I don't have anything. So I just taught and I typed everything I was going to say. I told everyone I'm like the Little Mermaid. I lost my voice. And so I had a kid be my reader. I'm like, you have to be like Prince Eric. You have to read for me. But if I had STEM bags, I probably could have gone home.
Exactly. And I mean, if you had, and like you said, yeah, like, and maybe there's times you come to school and you're there for half day and you feel really bad and you go home. Having that stuff like that, and I think would help too. Obviously, that's a very good point. And like the last activity that I kind of started doing this year, and I did it one of those 1-2 days I was sick. On my store, they're called back to school STEM activities, but basically it would be like a STEM activity. It's a PowerPoint, and all the teacher would have to do is just read it and then press play. Like the one I did when I was sick that the kids loved, like they were telling me all about it when I came back, was you were stuck on an island and you needed to get off the island. And then they had to
Oh.
build, and so like one kid built a boat, whereas one kid built like a he wanted to build something to start on fire so people could see him. I don't know,
Oh,
something
that's a
like
good
that. He was
idea.
trying to get people to get him off the island, and it was just very interesting because there was like 10 challenges. But like I've even told people, like teachers that I help train and stuff, I'm like, that's just nice to have for any sub, not just like a STEM teacher, I would say, because that's something fun that's going to pass time for your kids when you're not there. And I think STEM's a great way too, talking about subs, to add that into your classroom. When you otherwise maybe can't, because maybe your administrator is like, well, you know, you need to do this, this, and this. Well,
Mm-hmm.
when I'm not here, I paid for this, or I saw or heard Naomi and Spencer talk about this, so I'm going to try this.
Yeah.
So I think, you can get away with a little bit more of that there. And then maybe, they hear about how excited the kids are, and then you try something just, a little bit off of that. So I think that's another reason why, when you have subs, you can sometimes try things that are just a little bit different to see how your kids might react, and get the feedback from them the next day. Cause I'm always like, hey, how did things go? And they're always honest, which is nice, I think. And I don't know, that's the kind of way I've always approached subs, and how I do things. As far as what you do, Naomi, what would you say would kind of be like the behind the scenes thing for STEM teachers?
So when you were talking about how long it took to write your first set of plans, so did mine. Just because I think you're learning what your room looks like from an outside perspective. I think that's normal though. I think that's totally normal because when I was a classroom teacher, I mean, sub plans took forever. So I'm so grateful being a STEM teacher because it is a lot shorter. um, but behind the scenes, and these were tricks I did as a classroom teacher, is I start building the first month and a half of school, like when you get all of that paperwork from your office staff, like what your schedules are, all of like the emergency stuff, I put it in one binder and I put it inside of my sub binder. So I will, that way I know where all that stuff is, but also it's all available for a sub. So then I can give them that binder. And then I have like a rough draft of what my actual day looks like. So then if I were to be sick and not have a voice for the 4th time, then I can put out the binder for them. And then I also keep separate for my students. I get all those IEPs, 504s, and I have 4 rotations. So I have each rotation in their own binder with the kids' pictures and their names. And then behind that, I have all their IEPs and 504s because I think legally I have to give that to the sub. So then I leave that binder out also. And if there's a fire drill, they know who they are. And then I'll create a Google Doc for each of my days, but my days are the same. And then it has my rough draft. So I just make a copy every time I'm gone. So that's super helpful. Also, if it's like a quick lesson plan, I really don't have anything prepared. Sometimes a video is okay. They're only there for 45 minutes. I wouldn't say you should do this every time, but if you get pulled, like I've been pulled for testing before last minute, I've had to go help with state testing. So they had to call a sub like 10 minutes before or something like that. So I've done a little video guide. So we talked about like the Dream Big video is really good. I think it's only 40 minutes. It's free on Netflix, and a lot of you might have received a free DVD, but that's a really great STEM DVD or / streaming video you could show your kids. And then I have a little guide for that, a little free guide. And then this one, I don't know about you, can you only share rated G videos?
Yeah, we can. Like a lot of times at the end of the year when like everything's put away. I mean, this isn't with subs. When everything's put away, we'll watch like Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs or like Meet the Robinsons because they're kind of like STEM movies. And then we talk
Mm-hmm.
about like, hey, how's this kind of relate to STEM? And the kids think it's pretty cool. So yeah,
So
I
what,
mean, I think we're allowed. I mean, I've been told that.
I
Hopefully,
think, yeah,
I mean, I think
yeah,
it's all right,
you're
right?
allowed.
Good.
I'll do, now I'm surprised. Okay, I do have a DVD player. I don't trust the Wi-Fi when I'm gone, and I can always rely on a DVD player. DVDs are very expensive,
They are.
FYI. They're not cheap. But I did buy Monsters Inc. and I have the kids. This is also a free little video guide I have for last minute, but the students have to look for inventions in the movie and they have to draw those. And then the last question is, what invention would you invent to help the monsters? So they keep track of that while they watch. So just to
I,
keep them engaged and focused on something when they're not zoning out to the
where
video.
did you get that at? You said you got it for
It's
free. Do you
mine.
remember? Oh, it's yours. You said
Yeah.
it's free. Like when we were talking about even before this, you're
It's
like, yeah, it's free. And I was like,
free.
I need to make sure I ask her where she got that.
Yeah, I made
Oh,
it.
that's I'm gonna have to go get that then because I
Right?
didn't know
Yeah.
that. I thought you got it from like Disney because I'm like, that's you need to sell that to Disney is what you need to do because that's
No,
cool, right?
it's just a
That's a good,
one-page graphic organizer I made in my brain.
I love that. I mean, that's perfect for a sub. Like I'm gonna download that with all intentions of using that
Yeah.
for a sub because I mean, like that's great for kindergarten,
Yep. I
first
do it
grade.
K through
You know what I mean?
2. Mhm.
Yeah, and I mean, like you could do that with those young kids, and like even if you had to read them the questions, the sub could read the questions, and then
Mhm.
they could, the kids could draw. That's cool.
Yeah.
I
So
like
it's
that.
good, and the movie's long enough. So let's say you're gone 2 days. You're like so sick. Have them watch half of it the first day and the second half the next day. Like I said, please don't do videos every time. This is like worst
Right.
case scenario,
Mhm.
but it is worst case scenario. You might have to do that. So
Right. I like it just because I like the idea of it too, because I think that's so creative, and I think movies a lot of times we give them a bad stigma because it's always like you show a movie because you're not one to do anything. But a lot of times I think, like at least me as a person, I learn best from movies. Like I couldn't remember a vocab word to save my life when I was in school, but I could quote every line from my favorite movies, which frustrated my parents probably. But I like for me, I'm like that's what made sense to me. So for me to watch something, and it like was and I could relate it to something like that, I feel like the kids are like, wow, that's really neat. Like they think that's
yeah.
probably pretty cool. I mean, who doesn't like Monsters Inc? It's such an
No,
awesome movie.
it's
It's like
so
one of my favorite
cute.
Disney
And it's
movies.
rated
Yeah,
G. So,
which is big. Yeah, for
yeah.
sure.
But when I'm really getting into, I guess, real lesson plans, you can say this is more later in the year when I know the kids more and just what they can and can't do independently. I will actually, and if I know I'm going to be gone, I will record with Screencastify, or you can use any screen recording app. But I have my face in the corner, and then I have the lesson plan and how to get their digital materials and where they can find their building materials in the classroom. And I will have the sub play that. So I'll make a shortened link, or depending on who the sub is, I might see them that morning. I'll leave the links up on my computer, and then the sub can just play my video. It's me teaching them. So I'll actually say, good job sitting on the floor. I love how you're sitting and facing forward, just like if I was there. And the subs always laugh. They're like I was watching you teaching. Like, that's the whole point. So if you
Yeah,
really need them to keep going, especially since I only teach STEM 3 days a week, it's really hard for me to be gone. And I really want them to finish projects. So that's a really good option depending on your class. Even if you don't teach STEM, it's actually a really great option anyway. They're really good for writing lessons. I thought writing was always hard to teach. So that's really good. Just know your kids. And then I also really enjoy, I love creating STEM and stories activities. I have a bunch in my store. I don't always get to them myself, but they're really great for sub plans because subs feel very comfortable from what I've noticed over the years reading books out loud to kids. And so having, like you had mentioned, Spencer, just low prep, quick 1-day activities, STEM and stories activities, like my After the Fall one, super popular with subs and they like it. Like, that was a cute book. I'm like, I know, isn't that activity cute too? So they really appreciate that as well. Just slow prep, engaging, one day activity. Reading a book really helps like bridge that time they have with the kids, because things can go by quickly when you're a sub. I've subbed in classrooms
Yes.
before and I totally understand. But just keep it as low prep as much as you can do beforehand. We know things happen, but if you can have like a little sub tub or little area like Spencer has and binders, just really prepare. So if anyone's in your room, you can hand it off to somebody.
I was gonna say too, with the screen, like the recording of the lesson, I love that idea, and I know like even too, if you're not comfortable with doing like the screencastify thing, like a lot of times I'll just do like a Google Classroom post, and I'll tell a sub like, hey, tell the kids to go to Google Classroom, they know where that's at, and I would have like an announcement on there. I mean, I always did videos, but if you're just comfortable with doing like, you could say like, hey, here's what you need to do, here's the first, second, third thing, and usually like I would end it with like, hey, email me
Aw.
what you learned or something. And like, cause I know last year I missed like my first 2 years, I didn't really miss any. And then last year I missed days cause of farming. So that I always miss days cause of that. And then my wife being pregnant, I went to some baby appointments. So I'd be like, we'd be sitting there with the doctor. My phone just be buzzing like crazy. He's like, man, you're busy. Like, what are you doing? I'd be like, oh, I'm just teacher, just getting my kids to email
You're
me.
not just a teacher.
Yeah, I should have said that.
Are a teacher. In
I
fact,
should have said it like that. That's a good
said,
point. I
like,
downgraded
no,
it.
I'm not just a teacher here.
That's a good point.
I'm
I should
the
say
teacher.
that. But having that stuff on Google Classroom and a platform they're comfortable with, whether that be like, Seesaw, whatever you use, and having, a video if you're comfortable with that, an announcement, an assignment up there. I think that's nice too, because then you can even go and look and say, 18 of the 20 kids did it. Why did the 2 not do it? And then you can email them. And that way too, sometimes if you're doing like a bigger project in STEM, you don't necessarily have to go away from it. You can say, oh, here's the things you've done this week. Here's the things you still need to do. Make sure you get all those things done for your project.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much again for joining us today. We hope this really helps you think about your sub plans and what you can prepare now, whether you're going to be out soon or you just have it ready. And also follow us on social media. We're very active on Instagram, and also come join us on our Patreon. We have lots of exclusive goodies that we love creating for you. So just even more STEM content, bonus episodes, and all sorts of cool stuff there. But we appreciate you so much, and thank you for listening, innovative teachers. We will see you in the next episode.